3210.
See, as I said, we are at the bottom line of page AYIN Zayin. We are speaking now in general of phenomenon. There is the principle of phenomenon, the union of oir. Oir, as we mentioned many times, and cannot mention it enough times, is an intangible presence. Its effect is phenomenally deep and all-encompassing. But there is no way that that can be grasped by the recipient. It can only be engulfed in it. Yet, there is in this oir, even though oir is totally representative of the truth itself, the ratzon itself, yet still there is such a thing as more oir and less oir. Less oir does not cease to be oir. That's the big anomaly in this. Less oir does not cease to be oir. It still remains oir, but it's less oir. Specifically, we're talking about Chochmah and bimah. I pointed out, bimah has less oir than Chochmah, because bimah it goes into keilim. Chochmah does not have keilim, or if it has keilim, it's very, very, very fine, very elusive.
Maybe you want to call the conference?
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Keilim.
Anyone want the fan on maybe? Just a low setting maybe? Not too loud.
And this increase of oir and decrease of oir is affected by the keilim. More keilim, less oir. Less keilim, more oir. This sounds so superficial and logical, but if you focusing on what we're talking about, it's quite elusive, quite difficult to understand. How can oil be reduced? Oil is the reality itself. For example, what it means we give appropriate illustrations for these subtle principles. You greet a person, a friend. Greeting a friend is focused on the fact on your personal relationship with this friend. That personal relationship is speaking about the reality of these two people, how they relate to each other. And if for a moment As you're reading your friend, you remember that this friend is very smart. Last time we met, he said something very smart. Sounds good. But you have lost connection to the essence of this person. Now you're talking about something else.
Quality.
Giluyim,
Yeah.
not oir.
So.
Wait, one second. But did you lose connection to the person? In other words, this smart thing that was said, who did it come from? It came from your friend. And it makes a difference to you that it came from your friend. If you had heard it from someone else, it would not have the same impact as when you heard it from your friend. Or your father, or your brother. There's somebody who is some kind of closest to you. So there is still the impact of oir, but it's much reduced. Because now it has been clouded and contained in a container. Which means that the keilim reduce the oil. Yes, your turn.
So, I think that last sentence answered what I'm thinking about. It's not just that they correlate, it's this causation. When there are many keilim, you automatically have less light. When you have fewer keilim, you automatically have more light. Or they just kind of, it causes that there's more and less light.
Okay. Let's understand. The light itself, as coming from the source, is identical.
Yeah, but our point is somehow that once you start dealing with keilim, the light becomes secondary. Yeah.
No. As I said, it's not secondary because you still recognize where you got where you got this message from.
But somehow clouded, like an example.
But it's less emphasis, less impact.
Yeah.
But there's still light, and the light itself, the truth, the true presence of the light is the same because it all comes from the source in identical way. But it's received less.
It did seem like inside we said that by Chochmah there is ribui or mipnei on account of choiser keilim.
That's right. But that's because Chochmah takes more of the oil. Chochmah recognizes the oil more than bimah does.
Okay.
But oil comes not from Chochmah. Oil comes from the etzim, from the ratzon.
Right.
From there, it doesn't change.
And I shouldn't think that it's mipnei on account of lack of keilim. Thereby it has more light. It's not meaning it's getting light from another source, like was just said. It's not. It happens to be it doesn't have keilim for it. But it's not because it has few keilim it has more light. A person who is inarticulate, he has few words. Does he have more light? Not necessarily. So it seemed causation, like mipnei.
Okay, right. So we have to clearly distinguish cause and effect. Chochmah receives the light. The light originates at a much higher level. This is called ratzon. Ratzon is not affected by keilim whatsoever. But then, when we come to when the ratzon is mislavish in Chochmah, Chochmah means that we are trying to recognize and somehow relate to this ratzon, understand it. Even on Chochmah there is an element, as we said many times, Chochmah there is also an element of understanding. Even though Chochmah is just an akuda and a spark, but that spark is recognized from a perspective of it makes sense. When you have a spark, a light, you know what a light is. When you have a spark, it's just a spark. It doesn't really give any service, illuminate. Nonetheless, how do you define a spark? A momentary light. It still has a definition. So this is where keilim come into effect. Keilim have an effect on the oir. Again, not on the oir itself, as it comes from the nefesh, from the ratzon, but as it is received. This is the big phenomenon that we discuss many times. We always say it's both. It's difficult to understand what the great point of this, and once you understand it, you can understand how can oil be affected by anything. So we had this illustration. You meet a friend. This fact that he is your friend or that he is your brother, that doesn't change whether what you think about when you meet him. And yet the impact of that is reduced when you think in terms of some kind of an interaction. And this is what happens in Chochmah, and then it comes on further down in bimah, where bimah is really attempting to take a hold on this principle, and therefore there is reduced oil. Because in bimah you're attempting to take this oil into your own keilim, how you perceive them. The minute you start thinking of how you perceive it, you are no longer connected directly to the source.
I can't help thinking from what we've been saying from the beginning that there is some kind of a substate of ore once they're in some interaction with keilim. In other words, there's ore, plain ore, which you define as intangible, and then as soon as we put keilim in the picture, it's a reduced form of ore.
That's right.
That's what we're saying.
Well, that's what we're saying. It's a reduced form of oil, but this is the big challenge over here. Is it still oil or it's no longer oil? Oil has a very definitive meaning. Like in our simple moshel, it refers to a friend.
Because a friend is already a keilim.
No, friend is not.
Oh, so okay, it's a metaphor.
We have this old discussion. You invite somebody for lunch, and you serve him lunch, and this man says, "Oh, good lunch, good food." Packs it in a satchel. Says, "Okay, I got it. Thank you very much. Goodbye." So we all understand that he is missing the whole point completely. He focused on the keilim, forgot about the oil completely. But we understand that oil remains in place. When you invite somebody, you have lunch together with a friend. Yes, there is a lunch, but it does not eliminate the significance and the experience of being with him. The idea of the lunch is to make it more lasting, and you should be able to refer back to it and really experience that friendship. But the main thing is this relationship that is there. This relationship is an intangible. That's what we're talking intangible. There's no way that this can be. There is no way that this can be be presented as any other way.
So the lunch both is a manifestation of the light and also reduces the light.
Right.
And yet it's a way to remember the light.
And a very, again, we have Mashalim galore, just one thing we mentioned one time, more than one time. You go and you prepare, you have a 5-course dinner. It's a great experience. For those people who appreciate that. Here we have people who are above world. 5-course dinner, right? So if you have 5-course dinner at a wedding or some kind of a gathering, it's significant. You have a 5-course dinner in your own little kitchen. It's like a joke.
Right, needs the sustaining light.
Okay?
You started off the shir, you said that light is something intangible. Once it comes down into like bimah, is that still true?
But that is the challenge. What's the difference between there's Chochmah, Bina, and then there's Midas? Chochmah and Bina are in category by themselves. This is Moichi. But from that trickles down into Das and then trickles down into Midas. What's the difference? So we say no. They're in a different category. But Bina already has a grasp. So that's what we always explain. Yes, Bina has a grasp, but Bina is still in the category of Moichi. Bina seeks to understand, but not to experience, like Midas. Midas is dependent on personal, on Hergish Atzmi, on experience. Bina is not trying to experience. Bina is trying to understand. Yes, understand, but still, which is much more than Chochmah. But it's not looking to experience it. Therefore, it is still in Moichi, it's still Seichel, and it's still oil.
And in Midas still come into Or, but at that stage, the Or aspect of it is gas.
Midas is completely different. Midas is already a translation of the Or and how it impacts on your personal experience. Bina is still trying to get to know the truth itself. Not like Chochmah, but still trying to get to know it. Right? And here we have, this is the point that the Rebbe is making over and over again. At least by Yash it's over and over again, because we always restart again from the same line.
Last line?
Oh, yes.
That's line. Shenisrabo ha-keilim mismad ha'er. When there's an increase of keilim, the oir is reduced. And we explained this phenomenon with this Mashalim and so forth. V'zehu. Okay, that's the second half of the line, of the last line. V'zehu, and this is thus is the principle. The bino, where bino, yoysa b'b'chinas was keilim, because of the fact that it is b'b'chinas yisrach was keilim. Again, b'b'chinas means, what does b'b'chinas means? It is bent on yisrach was keilim. This is the effort. This is the effort when it comes to bina, is to present more and more keilim, more and more means to approach it and to relate to this thing. If you can take a concept and present it from two different angles, you have enriched bina than to see it from one angle. And you can see it from multiple angles, then it's even more effective bina. But then inside Hoyer,
What?
But the oil is reduced as a result. Because the minute you start looking at it from different angles, you're already focused on identifying its effect rather than its own truth.
Yeah. There's an expression in English: those who say don't know, those who know don't say. That Chochmah has it and it knows it, but it's like silent, right?
Okay.
But here we're kind of saying that that's true and that's also not true. That there's a genuine expression, comes to be and it's authentic. It's still knowing, but it is. On the other hand, it's not knowing because it's not it itself. Yeah.
So this is the important thing to understand. This is why bimah is still moichi, is still focused on relating to the origin, to the truth itself. Not for personal experience, but for truly relating and connecting to this truth. The reason I want to connect to this truth is because it's truth, not because it makes sense to me. Not because it enriches my intelligence.
Yeah. And then once it is on the level of midas, or speech in this case, it's almost like not knowing. Once it comes to midas, we just kind of said that's where there's complete.
Then you focus more on how it affects you.
And the light is still present, should still be present, right? Or completely absent by that point.
At that point, it's present, but that's not the emphasis. There's an expression in halacha, in Sivan halacha, Kabel es ho'emes memisha omroi. Listen to this. Kabel es ho'emes memisha omroi. Accept the truth from whoever said it, whoever the source is. At what level is this?
Midas.
Kabel es ho'emes memisha omroi. Moshe Rabbeinu reprimanded Eden that when there was the Har Sinai, Ma'amad Har Sinai, the keilim and brokim, and there was all that shoyful, Eden stood in the bank and says, Moshe, you take it, you bring it to us, you stay there, and then tell us what the Rebbe said. And then there's another phase of this ceremony, that when Moshe suggested to the Eden that he wants to make representatives, and the Sanhedrin, different groups that will translate his teaching to the Eden, they said, good, it's a good idea. Moshe Rabbeinu was reprimanding Eden for that. Shouldn't you prefer to hear it from me because I heard it directly from Hashem? And you prefer to hear it from somebody who hears it just from me? What's it represent? They want to understand. Wouldn't you prefer to hear it from me because I got it from first hand? I saw it. So how is that different? It's different. It's a real thing. So there's a difference even at that level.
Well, this assignment of the judges was the one suggested by Yitro, right?
By what?
Yitro. We're talking
Yes,
about
right.
This is the...
Right. Okay, we have had over the In the last period, many illustrations where everybody was able to focus and to see the difference. Like we said, if there's a house that is very well appointed, like it's a lived-in home, you find out that this is just a model home, and you're disappointed in what you've seen. Then interested to go back and see it again. Why not? It's exactly the same layout. The authentic thing is different. In the world of art, you have an original, a Chagall original, then a copy of that, which is a perfect copy. The original can go for millions of dollars, the perfect copy will go for $10. What's going on? So one time we spoke about, maybe I'll tell you now, there isn't that reality there. And that's why he doesn't have that same value. Okay, let's go back. So therefore, there is more keilim on top of the page. Ayin ches. Mismaid ha'ir v'hagilui. So then the oir and the gilui is reduced. I'm not going to go, I should be, but we spent enough time on these couple of lines. The word gilui, what is the word gilui referred to? One time we'll try to elaborate on that. But then mismaid ha'oir v'hagilui. Ukeyodua, as is known, the bimah malim al ha'chochmah. That bimah actually camouflages and conceals on the impact of the Chochmah. That's an amazing thing. You understand it. So that should be even more Chochmah. Says no. It is malim on the Chochmah. Because the keilim reduce the oir. Because Chochmah is the principle of oir. It's a very common expression. I got the point. I got the point. This is the Chochmah. There's nothing more to be said. I got you.
What is exactly the meaning of me'alim?
Malim.
Malim.
Malim means concealed. Covers over. The word world, by Lashon Kodesh, is called oil, oilam.
Okay.
And the word oilam is rooted in the word helam. Because oilam, world, conceals on the elokus that creates it, on the chayas that creates it. The Zeh Mashakosu, where this is the meaning of what the pasuk says, V'hein if yodei al hanohor. V'hein if nodei, and Hashem will lift his hand al hanohor, upon the river. What is the nohor referred to? Rabbeinu said, B'neida is known the nohor who bechinas bimah. That nohor, this is the bechina of bimah. There is the wellspring, which is a trickle, and then that extends itself into a nohor, a flowing river, and that is the bechina of bimah. The bechina of bimah elongates and broadens out that little trickle that comes from the spring. And in the future, and there's going to be real gilu, yiyeh b'kiyas hanor. Then there will be the effect, the principle of b'kiyas hanor, of splitting of the nor. What is the splitting of the Nor mean? Bigdei sheyeh gilu pnimis atayro, in order to facilitate the gilui, the coming forth of the pnimis of Torah. As we learned before, that before Matan Torah there was Kriyas Yamsuf. This is Matan Torah, the Gilui, there was Aniglis. There was Kriyas Yamsuf, breaking of the border of the sea. For Gilui Pnimis HaTorah, which is, and we also love it, Gilui Pnimis HaTorah, there is also going to be splitting of the water, but that will be the splitting of the waters of the Nahar of bimah. Okay, Gilui Pnimis HaTorah, the Gilui Pnimis HaTorah, shezehu Gilui Bechinas HaChochmah, which is the Gilui of the Bechina of Chochmah. It's inevitable that we'll have to address ourselves with the word Gilui sooner or later. The Kshem Shekriyas Yamsuf, where just as by Kriyas Yamsuf, Hoyo HaChon Ola Matan Torah, that was the preamble for Matan Torah. The Koy de Matan Torah, Kriyas Yamsuf. Where before Matan Torah there had to be the union from Kriyas Yamsuf. What is the significance of this? I think we already learned it. The Yam hu bechinas Malchus, because the Yam is the bechina of Malchus. Shekoneses u'ma'alemes betoicho oiras atzilus, that contains and kind of camouflages internal to it oiras atzilus, in that all the oiras atzilus end up in Malchus. In order to enable Matan Torah, Shezeh Gilui Atzilus. Matan Torah means the Gilui Atzilus, the revealing of Atzilus. Kriyas Hayam v'Hahelam. There had to be the splitting of the Yam, of the Yam means the Helam, splitting of the Helam, of the concealment. Just as the original Matan Torah had to go through this in order to facilitate Matan Torah. K'moikein le'osid, likewise le'osid. Bigdei sheyiskale pnimis HaTorah, in order that pnimis HaTorah should be revealed. Shehi gilui bechinas etzem hachochmah, which is the gilui of the bechinas, of the concept, the principle of etzem hachochmah, the essence of chochmah. So the chli is b'kiyas hanor. In order to facilitate that, to bring that out, there has to be b'kiyas hanor, the splitting of the nor. Nor is the river. V'hainu, which is, the explanation of that is mipnei shehabino liyesa b'chinas mitzius, because that bina is a b'chinas mitzius. Bina is on the level where there's mitzius, where there's keilim and there's a whole presence. Harehi ma'alemes al ho'ir. That means therefore conceals the oir. Ve'akein tzarech li is b'kiyas hanor. That's why there needs to be the splitting through the nor, the river, which is bina, and that enables the coming forth of the oir chochmah. V'achar kach bezo, then following after bina, he goes into zo. Zo is the elam, and zo is the inyan from midos. Then that goes into midos. The kol she came by malchus, and much more so when it goes down to malchus. Malchus is generally defined as dibur, the expression, they bringing things out in words. Shesham iker in hakelim, where there is the principal inyan of keilim. The principal inyan of keilim is in malchus. I want to elaborate on this for a moment. I mean, there's much to be spoken here, but just a minute, and explain this in Ikenin Hakeli. This will give us and bring us to understand the difference between thought and speech. It's a very big difference. Thought is also with words. Thought goes there's a language involved in thought. Could be any kind of language. Could be a self-created language, but there is a language. It's a kind of a means by which you refer to things in thought. In thought. You may be referring to 770 as 770. You're referring to 770 as Kingston Avenue, adjacent Parkway, or there. It's also a proper reference, but there is some kind of a reference. It could be a language that is you are comfortable with, but it's a language. It's not the reality itself. It's a language. But in thought, that language is referring to the real thing. Like I say, there is sufficient in thought, but there is not efficient in speech. In speech, you have to be descriptive. In speech, you have to actually refer to and describe it, what exactly you're talking about. You can't speak in the oil level. This is why Malchus, which is the Indian speech, this is Iken HaKeilim. There is a principle. This is where the real Indian of keilim come into place. Because without keilim, there is no Malchus. Even in a thought, there is also keilim, but there is an element that is above keilim. The keilim are contained in the oil. You can be referring to the Indian as you know it without keilim, and then you think of it, you put that into keilim. Whereas in speech, there is nothing to know unless you put it into keilim. Everything is known to keilim. This is why in speech there is this special challenge. Somebody gives a very well-constructed talk, very well put together in a logical order. And because it's presented in such a logical order, you focus entirely on the structure, and you forget what is the point in this. What is he talking about? That's possible in speech. In thought is not possible. Thought you really have to talk about something. But in speech, this is where the Iker HaKeilim is. This is it's all focused on keilim, and this is where the challenge is. Don't get lost in the keilim. Know that these keilim are carrying some kind of a message.
Wait, by thought you wouldn't. People seem to do similar stuff in thought. Namely, you forget the main point and get involved in all kinds of schemes and machinations about nomination. But that's not real thought. Right? That's scheming, right?
The Gemara gives us a cloud. Loi b'shuftim yaskin. We're not talking about idiots. Any muscle, immediately you have to put it in some kind of perspective.
Real human thought.
Real human thought. This is it.
We
for davening.
We didn't finish the last.
Okay, I have to finish the last few words.
Or
That's all. So the in Malchus is Iker in HaKeilim, therefore, Ha'oiru Shom B'miyud B'yeser. Therefore, in Malchus, the oil there in Malchus is B'miyud B'yeser is extremely reduced. There is hardly an allusion to the oil. And this is why I said you have to take special precaution to remember what you're talking about.
Really? People by the king are not awestruck? There's not a huge amount of light there?
What?
When you go to the king's chamber, people are not awestruck? It's not on account of a lot of light there? By the mellow?
I finish already. No, Malchus does not mean the presence of the king, it means the Gili of the king.
Okay, like his decree. Okay.
All right.